Okay, so where to begin? COVID-19. It's quite the new environment for me, individually. It is a pandemic, and people are encouraged to stay indoors. Um, However, I am uh, in an industry that is considered an essential service by the government, and so I do get to go around. In that sense, I know I'm very lucky. Um, I try my best to protect people uh, around me, including myself, um, while wear a mask or go to and from work. But it is very striking. I get to see firsthand, the isolation that is present um, as a result of being cautious and being sensible about this virus, the COVID-19. So when I come home, I do, try to process what I see, the quiet, the fact that the few people I see are all wearing, you know, protective gear. Most people are anyways. They also keep their distance from each other. And so these measures are meant to keep us safe. Um, People are listening on the whole, to the rules, telling people to stay um, as isolated as possible. But it does give me a sense of how severe the situation is when I move around the city to and from work, of course. And I'd like to share some of my insights and the ways I'm processing uh, this these interesting times with you. Yeah, so ways I used to cope with COVID-19. Well, okay, first of all, YouTube, I find that YouTube is very, very it's a great thing to have at a time like this. I use YouTube to, look up, all kinds of facts. I really like facts about COVID-19. I want to see what other governments in the world are doing, how other people are doing, and YouTube is a really good way to connect me to that. Another thing that I find that is helpful is listening to music or videos that people produce specifically about COVID-19. What comes to mind is One World Together at Home, which is a series of performances by artists encouraging our frontline workers, our medical professionals, our grocery shop uh, workers, and the effort they take in helping, you know, uh, everyone sustain themselves. And I find that that's very helpful for me. On top of that, what I also find YouTube helpful for is distractions like Linus Tech Tips. It's a very great technology channel, and having another source of great information to look at when I do find COVID-19 overwhelming is very helpful for me. I also like reading books. Um, I find that reading books while being in the sunlight, not outside, of course, but being in the sunlight is very, very helpful. I've been reading this book about Asperger's and personal identity, and I think that that's given me a lot more interesting insights that I take um, on my daily life. Uh, Life is a learning process. Um, and, you know, I guess one thing that I've noted is how COVID-19 um, makes me realize that we're all interconnected, right? So just because, you have a different job, just because you have a different profession, just because you have a different, identity, or just because you um, may not be seen as typical or normal, doesn't mean that you don't have worth. This coronavirus, COVID-19, really shows that we all have a part to play. And society is really, really interconnected in ways that most people don't give credence to day by day. Um, we're all connected. We all have our roles to play. We all support each other, and no one is inherently better or worse than another person because we're all part of the human race. We're a part of the human experience. Um, and one of the ways that I keep in contact with that is phoning friends, calling friends, asking how people are doing, asking if anyone needs any help. I think that's really one of the ways that I try to keep in contact and keep on reflecting about the experience, the tribulations, the hardships that people are going through this coronavirus, global coronavirus epidemic, but also all the progress and all the great stuff that's happening. Seeing people supporting each other, that's been a really great source of inspiration for me.